Cool logo, nice box, reasonable price. Will this knife perform? But more importantly, will it survive? And the knife is Axial USA Shift V3. To it, I'm going to do my usual stuff. I'm going to put the blade under the microscope, test the hardness, but I am also going to take it out there and give it a serious torture test. That's coming up. What I get about this knife is how smooth the action is. By US OTF standards, this is a budget knife. It's under $250. And as you can see, hydraulics-like action, because the pressure just builds up, but smoothly. You know, you don't feel like you're straining your thumb against it, and then it just breaks the glass, so to speak. In the same price and size category is, of course, what I was considering up until this moment, my favorite US-made OTF, which is this Kershaw Livewire. And I hope you've seen the video where I put it through its paces, and I mean through the paces. Epic is the word I'm looking for. And by the way, don't try it with your knives, because after exposing it to that much water, you have to. I'll be linked in the description. Let's do super quick size comparisons. Here's Benchmade Infidel and its mini version, Microtech Cypher 2 and venerable Ultratech, a US-made Chavez Dissident and Kershaw Livewire. Let's move from OTFs to some folders, starting with Benchmade Bug Out and its mini version. Gotta look at Kershaw Bel Air, and of course Hogue Deca. Instant classic, also from Hogue, is the Misto. And from the premium side of the spectrum, Oz Machine Roosevelt. You know, if you ever held the Infidel, it has this kind of gritty aluminum anodizing finish. But if you had the Microtech in your hand, you would notice how slick and slippery this finish is. This lies somewhere in between. It has a little bit of grit, but it doesn't feel chalky at all. It's smooth yet textury. So another thing to point out, they put jimpings and texturing on the handle, the milling on the handle, in all the right places. Clearly, they did a lot of research on ergonomics. At no point, at no grip, do I feel anything that I wouldn't wish to have in an OTF. And it's a sign of actual professionalism in designing the knife that actuates automatically. This knife did disappoint me in one way, but it's coming up later. Let's look at the blade under the microscope. The shift exceeds my expectations from a production factory edge. Look at this. It's belt-formed edge. See a slight convexity to it. So it will be not only sharp, but also very stable. Here's a sort of 3D look at the apex. As you can see, no burr. So not only was it stropped, but the burr was properly weakened and removed. And the edge is consistent throughout the length of the blade. And as evidence of the top-level professionalism of whoever sharpened this blade, take a look at the perfectly formed
Before I
tip.
torture it, I better do the factory edge cutting test using my suspended in the air unsupported paper towel. It's a good way to determine whether or not the knife is sharp. Yeah.
Sorry about the background noise. I found a piece of cardboard in a parking lot next to a highway. This is 1/4-inch thick, heavily corrugated, industrial-grade cardboard used for shipping flooring materials. Personally, I'd like to know if that beautifully formed edge translates in a great cutting performance. It will shave. Next question. The action is smooth for sure. Will it take a severe abuse? Don't do this to your knives. Accidental drops do happen though, and always in the worst possible conditions. Sand and dirt will cause any OTF malfunction. Question is, can this knife be still used after sustaining this kind of abuse? Or to put it more better, can I restore the function of this knife without using any tools?
And as you can see, after a few shakes and rattles, it starts to function again. How would you clean the dirt off in the field? You gotta be thorough. Let's make sure the water gets all the way into the mechanism. I mean, this is not an implausible scenario. What do you guys think? Unlike Benchmade Infidel or Microtech ZBP, this knife doesn't have draining holes in the back of the handle. So hydrolocking it can cause a serious issue with its function, as you see. And what I'm experiencing here, the blade is trying to deploy, but it's catching on something. It's almost like pouring water into the mechanism, shifted the dirt right into the track of the blade. I give up for now. Maybe stabbing it into this tree stump will clear the issue. This kind of use is actually appropriate for OTFs. They're designed to take stress in the stabbing direction. But in the past, I can think of at least two knives that unlocked when I was doing this. One was Medford Merc 1, and the other one was Microtech Glycon. I bought this knife from the Knife Center, and in their advertisement, they were saying something about the mechanism that caught my eye, namely that it has something that's called bearing glide and hammer lock. These terms are both new to me, and I wonder what they represent. So after I'm done here, I'll take it back to the studio, take it apart, give it a cleaning, and take a close look at what bearing glide and hammer lock represent. Blowing on that mechanism didn't help at all, but carrying it in the pocket for about half an hour looks like it's dry enough now, and it won't self-lock or won't lock out the action. So I'm happy about that. Yet there's still plenty of dirt inside there, so I need to take it apart. There's some dirt on the blade still being dragged in and out. And that's always a risk to the mechanism inside the handle as well to the apex on the blade. So I'm going to accelerate it 2x, just going to remove the screws, starting with loosening the action. I mean, you can disassemble an OTF with the blade fully deployed, but that puts a lot of tension on the engine spring inside, so it'll pop out. It'll pop out anyway most of the time, but you know, I'm talking about, you'll see. So this is my HOTO screwdriver set, and sometimes you're going to need two of these to unscrew the Chicago screws here, because they are not indicated to the handle. In other words, the female portion of that Chicago screw or the barrel, it free spins, so you may need two screwdrivers to disassemble them. Those are my favorite HOTO. They have much better steel, as I found out, for the tips than other brands. I'm linking it in the description, and here I am prying it open because it sits in there pretty snugly, and you know, trying to loosen the action. It is now open. The spring popped out a little bit, nothing terrible. There's no spring backing up the switch. There's a metal plate there. I don't see any bearings. Let's take the blade out. For that, I have to remove the stop pin, use the magnet. It's not screwed in, it just free floats. Very traditional construction, but we'll talk about this later when I reassemble the knife. For now, I want to do the hardness test. And to do the hardness test, I start with verifying the calibration of my Rockwell tester. For that, I use this calibration block, which is independently certified in accordance with NIST standards. to be at 62 HRC. The standard permits me to have a repeatability error of plus or minus 0.5 HRC. I got 62.4. My device usually gives me plus or minus 0.2 HRC repeatability error. And lately it's been running just a hair high. As you can see, those two pokes average 62.3 HRC, which is still well within the calibration standard. But if you wish to remove 0.3 HRC from the end results, be my guest. I'm just going to quote the numbers here as they come, because those repeatability errors can go both ways and technically should average out. So I'm ready for my first result. I got 63.4 HRC. The advertised hardness on the knife center side was 63. I think Axial says 62 to 64. I don't recall exactly on their website. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we are hitting it spot on. I don't mind it being just a hair higher. So here I got 63.2. And if you subtract my repeatability error, you're getting right into 60 HRC. Here I would like to take a moment and ask everyone who is a subscriber to make sure your notifications are enabled on your phone and you have notification bell engaged. 63.4 again. So now I'm going to poke it as close to the edge as I can while staying on the flat part of the blade. Anyway, if you thought you had notification enabled, YouTube recently went with iPhone policy, so you need to re-enable it if you'd like to get notifications about my videos, because some of my regular viewers mentioned to me that they weren't. 63.5 this time. So I'll give the average in terms of range, 63.0 to 63.4 HRC. So please let me know in the comments how you feel about MagnaCut-bladed hardness. Meanwhile, I am back to reassembling the knife. I use naphtha, also known as the lighter fluid, to clean the interior of the handle. I like naphtha because it's neutral and it evaporates as quickly as alcohol or gasoline, and it will dissolve and remove any old grimy grease that may be lurking inside a knife. I am also cleaning around the tang of the blade itself. Everything gets a little bit of a scrub. While I'm doing this, I'd like to thank my subscribers for subscribing and paid members for joining the membership program on my channel. I think it's the best way you can possibly encourage and inspire a YouTuber is by, showing some loyalty and appreciation through, say, a super thank, a hype, or by joining the channel. Sincerely appreciate every single one of you guys who've done that, and letting you know that your support is my inspiration. Thanks again. The blade is back in the grooves, and I dropped the stop pin back in. And a little light here. Double check that the stop gate springs are still there, because the knife will not function without them. Those are the tiny little springs behind these little trapdoor style stop bars. I call them stop gates. The spring reassembles on the engine with a flat tab on the one end of the spring toward the back and a rounded one toward the front of the engine. I think the metal plate behind the switch is what they call glide bearing. I can see why, because it keeps some space between the switch and the mechanism, allowing any grit to pass through there. And now I'm just dropping the cover back on. I am actually very unimpressed with the mechanism. It's as traditional as any older OTF. If you look at older Ultratechs, or basically any Chinesium OTF that you get for 20 bucks, they're pretty much copy of the same mechanism. They all are. Lately, Microtech has dual springs. I think Benchmade had dual springs for a while in some of their OTFs. Uh, but I am not seeing it here. So some of the marketing is just gimmicky language. Not to say that it's a bad knife, it's just a very, very basic traditional OTF. So don't buy it because you expect some kind of significant innovation. The bearing glide system is, to me, the more important part because it completely eliminated any rattling around the switch, either in closed or open position. There's almost no audible rattling noise, which is so common among pretty much all other OTFs except for the very, very expensive ones like Hog Deadlock. As you can see, I'm getting good use out of my two HOTO drivers. Sometimes they run sales on them where you can get two and then the third one is free. I highly recommend. It had a little malfunction. Probably just hydrolocking with this oil I freshly applied, but it hasn't locked up since. So anyway, check out the HOTO links to see if you can catch them on sale. Let me know in the comments what you think about them. All right, so the good news after all that cardboard and trip into the dirt, it will still cut the kind of cut catalog paper. See, so it didn't completely lose its cutting ability, but it's no longer sharp by my standards because it will not break through the edge of the paper towel, and I can do this. That cardboard is not what did it in, it was the dirt. Dirt contains a lot of silica granules. Basically, when I was manipulating the knife in the dirt or after immersing it into the dirt, I was sanding down the cutting edge. Here's what it looks like under the microscope. On the left, you see the footage from before, earlier in the video, and on the right is its current condition. Should be pretty obvious what's going on here. As you can see, my experimentation resulted in quite a bit of apex wear, as well as pretty gnarly chipping toward the tip. Please don't do this to your knives. My microphone battery died while I was filming the next segment, so if you see weird lip motion, I apologize. What I'm trying to show you here are these two strops. They're Beavercraft, made in Ukraine. That's where I'm from. And I'm going to use those two strops to try and bring back the edge, at least to some level of cutting. The compound on the strop that I use is Tech Diamond Tools Diamond Paste. I'll be using 3000 grit paste on the smooth side of strop number 1. Then I'm going to switch to 3000 on the rough side of strop number 2, and then go to 5000 on the smooth side of strop number 2. Whew. By the way, everything you see here will be linked in the description, and every time you shop through my links, it really helps out the channel. To remind everybody, my number one rule for stropping is there are no rules in stropping. And that's why you see me not counting number of strokes or doing any of this silly stuff. I'm looking at the strop surface and it informs me of the condition of my edge, especially when you're on the smooth side of the leather. You will see any striation that is still on the apex. As you can see, stropping alone helped some. It's now trying to bite through the edge of the paper towel, but it's still not very satisfying. So I'm going to grab an SY tool diamond plate, which I use with my XARILK fixed angle sharpener. That's my go-to sharpener. And I'm just gonna run the edge a few times. I'm guessing the angle here to be about 17 degrees per side, so my micrometer tells me I might be off a little bit, but it will help me to restore the edge to the cutting condition. Great method for field repair, because you're not taking a lot of apex off. You end up, when you end up sharpening it again, you don't have to remove too much metal. And now I'm going back to the 5000 grit here on the strop, and let's see what it can do. Here's that same paper towel, and yeah, it's definitely biting in now. It's really about the level of your production knife that you get from a company like Benchmade, for example. And if you bought Benchmades recently, you know it's not a compliment. Let's see if it will cut the catalog paper. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit notification bell. And thank you so much for watching.